You wake up already losing. Before your feet touch the floor, your brain has already opened court against you. Every mistake becomes evidence. Every awkward conversation becomes a replay. Every failure becomes identity. You call it self-awareness. But it's not awareness, it's surveillance. You monitor yourself like a prisoner waiting to slip up. And the terrifying part, most people don't even want to stop hating themselves anymore, because self-hatred has become personality, humility, motivation, even entertainment. People joke about being worthless before breakfast. They laugh at their insecurities online. They turn burnout into aesthetics, depression into humor, self-destruction into identity. You've seen it. Someone gets complimented and immediately rejects it. Someone achieves something and instantly says, "I just got lucky. I'm still behind. It's not enough." Why? Because deep down, many people feel safer hating themselves than believing in themselves. Believing in yourself is dangerous. It creates expectations, risk, responsibility, but self-hatred is comfortable. If you already think you're pathetic, failure can't surprise you. If you already reject yourself, nobody else has the power to reject you first. That's why some people secretly cling to their own suffering like it's oxygen. And the worst part, modern life profits from this. Entire industries survive by convincing you that you are incomplete, too ugly, too weak, too broke, too late, too average, too replaceable. You are trapped inside a machine that feeds on insecurity and calls it self-improvement. But none of this explains the real question. Why does the human mind become addicted to attacking itself? Why do some people feel uncomfortable when they finally start healing? And why does self-hatred sometimes feel weirdly familiar, almost like home? Because the truth is darker than low confidence. Most people are not fighting themselves. They became emotionally attached to the version of themselves that suffers. And once you understand why that happens, you'll never hear your inner voice the same way again. A child is not born hating themselves. Read that again carefully. Nobody enters the world staring into a mirror thinking, "I'm not enough." Self-hatred is learned, slowly, quietly, like smoke filling a room while nobody notices they are suffocating. It usually begins with tiny moments people dismiss as normal. A parent who only notices mistakes, teachers who compare you to smarter students, friends who laugh a little too hard at your embarrassment, love that suddenly disappears when you fail, attention that only comes when you achieve something. Your brain starts collecting patterns. Maybe I matter only when I perform. Maybe mistakes make me unlovable. Maybe being myself is dangerous. And the human brain is terrifyingly adaptive. If rejection keeps happening, your mind develops a defense mechanism. Reject yourself first. Because pain feels easier when you control it. That's the birth of the inner critic, not as a monster, but as protection. A strange psychological bodyguard that whispers, "If I attack myself first, nobody else can hurt me worse." That voice becomes louder over years. You fail once. The voice says, "See, I told you." You get rejected. Obviously, you make a mistake. You ruin everything. Eventually, the voice no longer sounds separate from you. It becomes you. And this is where things become dangerous, because repeated thoughts carve identity. The brain is like wet cement during emotional repetition. Every insult you repeat to yourself leaves fingerprints. I'm awkward. I'm ugly. I'm lazy. I'm behind. I'm not special. At first they are thoughts, then habits, then beliefs, then identity. And identity is powerful. Humans will protect an identity even when it destroys them. That's why people sabotage opportunities, why they stay in toxic relationships, why compliments feel uncomfortable, why success sometimes creates anxiety instead of happiness. Because improvement threatens the familiar version of self. Imagine living in darkness for years. Even light starts hurting your eyes. That is what healing feels like to many people. Uncomfortable. Suspicious, unsafe. People think confidence feels natural. It often doesn't, especially if your nervous system was trained around criticism. You can see this everywhere now. People apologize before speaking, hide their talents, laugh at their own dreams before others can, pretend not to care, pretend mediocrity is maturity. Entire generations are becoming emotionally allergic to self-respect, and social media made it worse, because now comparison never sleeps. Your brain was never designed to compare itself against millions of lives every day. Yet now people wake up and immediately consume evidence that someone is richer, more attractive, more successful, more disciplined, more loved. Hour after hour. Eventually, your mind starts creating a silent conclusion. Everyone is evolving except me. But what people compare against isn't reality. It's edited existence. Nobody uploads confusion. Nobody uploads emptiness. Nobody uploads the nights they cried staring at ceilings, questioning their life. You compare your behind the scenes to somebody else's movie trailer. And after enough exposure, self-hatred becomes normalized, even rewarded. People bond through self-deprecation now. Someone insults themselves online and gets thousands of likes. Someone expresses confidence and gets called arrogant. So people learn something dangerous. Self-destruction gains social acceptance. Self-belief attracts attack. And slowly the mind adapts again. It says, stay small. It's safer, but there's another layer almost nobody talks about. Some people become addicted to self-hatred because it removes responsibility. That sentence stings because it's true. If you convince yourself you're incapable, you never have to risk trying fully. If you already believe failure is guaranteed, you avoid the terror of uncertainty. Self-hatred becomes emotional anesthesia. It protects people from disappointment, but also from growth, because growth requires vulnerability. And vulnerability feels unbearable to someone who spent years emotionally bruised. So instead they remain in a strange emotional prison, dreaming about another life, while constantly attacking the person capable of building it. And the cruelest irony, the person they hate the most is usually the exhausted version of themselves that survived everything alone. The anxious version, the insecure version, the overthinking version. Most people are bullying the exact self that carried them through pain. That voice inside your head was originally trying to protect you. It just never learned when to stop. And maybe that changes everything. Because if self-hatred was learned, it can also be unlearned. Not overnight, not through fake positivity, not through pretending pain never happened, but through recognizing something powerful. You cannot build a beautiful life while constantly declaring war on the person living it. A mind attacked daily cannot become peaceful. A soul insulted constantly cannot feel safe. A person who only hears criticism internally will eventually fear their own existence. Healing begins when you stop treating yourself like an enemy occupation, not when you become perfect, not when life suddenly transforms, not when everybody validates you. It begins the moment you realize the voice in your head is not always the truth. Sometimes it is just an old survival mechanism, speaking with the authority of a parent that no longer exists. And maybe the strongest thing a person can do in this world is not becoming fearless. Maybe it's learning how to look at themselves without disgust for the first time.